Today I'm going to share with you 3 tracking tools to up-level your menopausal weight loss journey. Actually, stick around to the very end because I've just thought of a 4th bonus tip that should definitely be included. Hi, I'm Chelsea Green, holistic hormone specialist, and I help women transition from peri to post-menopause naturally using homeopathy, herbs, nutrition, and lifestyle medicine. If that sounds like the type of thing that you're interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video. So a caveat to today's video: before any of what I'm talking about today has any benefit, you have to get the foundations of menopausal nutrition right. You can't be bypassing any of that. So if you're not sure about what you should be eating, where you should be placing your focus, then I recommend going back and watching this video I did previously on menopausal nutrition. In that video, I will show you where to focus your energy for optimized menopausal nutrition. So do check it out. I will link it in the show notes below. Okay, if you've been doing all the things consistently, you've been removing sugars, refined carbohydrates, you're eating lots of protein, you're exercising appropriately, and you've seen zero shift on the scales, or maybe you've lost a little bit of weight but you just can't seem to shake those last few pounds, then these tools that I'm going to mention in this video might just be what you need. And I get it, it can be really frustrating when you're trying all the things and it's just not working. You end up feeling like a failure and wondering where you're going wrong. Should you just give up? Perhaps you feel like you don't know where else to turn. In fact, hit the like button if that sounds familiar to you. Well, I'm here to tell you there is absolutely nothing wrong with you, and you are definitely not a failure. The problem is a lot of the weight loss tips out there are generic and they're not suited to menopausal women, and they don't account for our individuality. Case in point, chickpeas. Chickpeas are really high in fiber, so you would think great for blood sugar balancing, great for the gut. They're also a phytoestrogen, so great for menopausal health. But for me, they spike my blood sugar level, and I know this because of our first tracking tool. So tracking tool number 1 is Continuous Glucose Monitoring, or CGM for short. CGM is a way to track how foods affect your blood glucose, i.e. tracking your blood sugar balance. It works by wearing a small pod or a sensor on the back of your arm, and you have an app which you scan the pod with. Within the app you track your food, but you can also link it to your exercise tracker and a step counter if you use one of those. At various points during the day you would scan your sensor with your phone, and then you can see through the app how that food or that exercise has affected your blood sugar levels. So it's real-time data, and it's really useful for giving immediate feedback into how foods are affecting you. So you can very quickly identify any foods that might be triggering a blood glucose response. So you might be eating foods that are perfect for menopause, but they're causing havoc for your system, a bit like the chickpeas and me. And when we have this information, we can very quickly change our diet, and that might just help shift those last few pounds. So I'm in the UK and I use a company called Very. I believe they also cover the whole of Europe. And in the States, I know a lot of people recommend the company NutriSense. So within the app, the ranges for blood sugar are set to usually around 80 to 120, but for menopausal women, you want to reset that from 70 to 110. So let me show you an example of what it looks like in the app. The dotted lines that you can see are the ranges that I have set. That's 70 to 110, like I said, for menopausal women. And the idea is that I stay within these dotted lines. And the food pictures are where I've entered my meals. The image on the left, you can see that I exercise fasted, and that raised my blood sugar level to the top of my set range. And the rest of the day, I've pretty much stayed in range. Top tip: a hot shower will spike your blood sugar level. It's just because it momentarily raises your stress hormones. Okay, on the right, you can see that something I ate at breakfast spiked my blood sugar level. So I can reflect on what I ate and remove the offending item. I know I'm super sensitive to grains, and I think from memory here I was trying rye sourdough, but even for me, and I think I probably had it with something like avocado and eggs, so I had the fat and the protein to help dampen down the response, but even that for me was a no-go. Whilst we don't want blood glucose spikes, we also don't want to be too low, as that is going to create an ongoing stress response. So I have the bottom range set at 70, and here in these blue circles at the top, you can see it's letting me know my daily average was moving towards being too low. So we just have to be mindful of that as well. So you can see we've got lots and lots of information here. The second tracking tool that I like to use is heart rate variability. Heart rate variability can be thought of as a stress resilience marker. So what it is, it's actually the time in between the heartbeats, and that comes from our autonomic nervous system, which also controls our stress response. We want the autonomic nervous system to be able to adapt really quickly and easily between a stressful situation and a calm situation. That is, we want good variability. So here we're looking for nice high rates of heart rate variability. Higher heart rate variability is associated with lower mortality and morbidity, as well as improved quality of life and overall wellness. And for us in menopause, it's a really good indicator of how well we're coping with stress. And in relation to weight loss resistance in the menopause, if you're struggling with that menopausal belly, or if you're struggling with weight loss resistance, it's usually down to two hormones, that being insulin, i.e. blood sugar balance, and also too high a stress hormone, so there's too much cortisol in the system. And these two hormones are paired, so if one is out of balance, the other will be out of balance too. So your blood sugar imbalance could be because you're eating too much sugar, too many refined carbohydrates, or it could be because you've got too much stress in the system. And as an aside, both of these hormones, insulin and cortisol, poor metabolic health, i.e. blood sugar imbalance, and too high a stress hormone will be underpinning all of your menopause symptoms. So in order to track your heart rate variability, you do need some sort of device like a Garmin or an Apple Watch. I think Fitbit are doing it now. They never used to. A Whoop band does it, and an Oura ring as well. And you need to understand how your device tracks heart rate variability. Apple Watch, for example, tracks straight heart rate variability, so you're looking for a nice high number around 100, whereas Garmin gives you a stress score, and you want that nice and low, below 20 ideally, every single day. So again, I want to show you what it looks like within the app. So I use a Garmin Vivo Smart 4 watch and the Garmin Connect app, and this is what I can see when I track heart rate variability. So here is a good day for me. You can see my score is well below 20, and the blue representation here shows very low stress throughout the day. Whereas if we look at this visual, we can see the orange all tightly banded together. It is indicating high levels of stress. And this is where it becomes really handy, because we can see the times and figure out what we were doing to create that stress. So on this visual, if you look at the time, it's between midnight and 8 a.m. And that's not good because I'm asleep and my stress should be at its lowest. And I'm particularly stressed between 1 and 3 a.m., which is the time of the liver. So you can probably guess why. That's right, I drank alcohol before midnight. So a great tool for managing stress, but also a great visual to remind you of what alcohol does to your system. Okay, the third tracking tool I recommend using is MyFitnessPal. So bear with me, I'm not for any stretch of the imagination suggesting counting calories. Within MyFitnessPal, we can look at our macronutrient intake. And as menopausal women, we need to be eating a lot more protein than most women are. So we can use MyFitnessPal to track our food and give us an insight into whether or not we're eating enough protein. With protein, we need to be aiming for 1.2 grams per kilo of body weight. So for example, if we had a 70 kilo woman, we would multiply 70 by 1.2 grams, which would give us 84 grams of protein. That woman could then use the app to make sure she's getting that 84 grams of protein every single day. So within the app, what you want to do is enter your food for the day. And on the diary page, if you scroll right to the bottom, there's a button called Nutrition. If you click on that, that's how you'll get your macronutrient intake. It will show you the amount of protein you ate that day, the amount of carbohydrates, and the amount of fat. Another visual for you, you can have the macronutrient information in a list view like this against your goals. These are not my goals, by the way. If you don't set them, the app gives you goals based on the information you input when you set up your profile. And then on the right, if you click on the macros button at the top, you get this pie graph, and you can see on this day, my highest macro intake was fat at 37%, and then protein at 36%, and carbs at 27%. And this is where blood sugar monitoring is important, because if you looked at this information in isolation, it would indicate my carbohydrate consumption is too low. But when you consider it alongside my blood sugar, which is completely balanced, it gives a lot more context. So here's the thing, I'm a homeopath and a health coach. As a health coach, I love these tracking tools and this data, but as a homeopath, I'm not interested. As a homeopath, I'm interested in the whole person. I'm interested in how that person feels, what their symptoms look like, and how they present for them. So my thoughts are, use these tracking tools as a guide. We all have a unique body intelligence that sends us messages through signs and symptoms, and we need to be in tune with that. So I'd say use these tools as a guide to, say, for example, get to recognize what your requirement of protein looks like on a day-to-day basis, or how you feel when your blood sugar levels are balanced versus how you feel when you have a spike in blood sugar level. Ultimately, we want to be in tune with our body, and we want to be eating intuitively. We want to be able to recognize what our body needs and what suits our individuality. For example, when I first started using a glucose monitor, I used it probably once a month for around about 3 months, whereas now I just use it once a quarter. MyFitnessPal, again, I just used it for a few weeks to get a visual idea of what my protein intake should look like, and now I don't really use it at all. However, heart rate variability I do look at daily because it's just so vital to our menopausal experience. It's really important that we keep those stress levels low. And the bonus tip is the other thing that I do track daily, and I use my Garmin, so it's no extra work, and that thing is sleep. I also track my sleep, which might kind of seem counterintuitive given what I've just said about signs and symptoms. And yes, I do recognize when I've had a poor night's sleep, but I'm tracking it more to look at how things that I'm doing during the day are affecting my sleep. So I know when I spend a whole day editing these videos, for example, I don't get as much deep sleep. So I know I need to kind of break that up a bit. But with sleep, what you're aiming for is between 7 and 9 hours, depending on your individual needs. And we're looking for 2 hours of deep sleep. If you are struggling with your sleep, make sure you do check out my sleep video, which I will also link to in the notes below, because again, sleep is vitally important to your weight loss journey. Not sleeping can cause blood sugar imbalances and increase stress hormones. So they're the 4 tracking tools that I would recommend you use if you are struggling to lose those extra pounds, or if you're struggling with weight loss resistance. But as I said at the very beginning, you have to get the fundamentals right. If you're not focusing on balancing your blood sugar levels, gut health, and eating lots of phytoestrogens, you need to get that stuff in order first. The tracking tools can give us the kick up the butt we might need because they provide us with visual evidence of what we're not doing correctly, but they can't replace eating enough protein, eating your healthy fat, and eating lots of fibrous vegetables. And they can't replace going to the gym and doing some strength training or getting your steps in every single day. And they certainly can't replace good quality rest. So if you're unsure if you're on the right track with your menopausal nutrition, watch this video next and learn what you should be focusing on without cooking separate meals, without eating alone, and without spending loads of money on fancy ingredients.